That's right. It's time for KP's Video News. And here we go. We're going to get started right away with video number 162. It's all about the ADHD wars against black boys and black children. And Dr. UMAR Johnson details how to combat misdiagnosis of the learning disorder. So we are medicating so many of our young African American males for attendance deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. Recent studies show that there are 70% increase in ADHD identification for black children. Black boys are diagnosed with the disorder at a higher rate than any other group of students in the United States. Educator and psychologist Dr. Umar Johnson says one way the schools deal with perceived bad behavior is to diagnose and medicate students for attention deficit hyperactive disorder, or ADHD. Dr. Johnson joined Roland Martin Wednesday on News One Now to discuss his book, Psycho-Academic Holocaust, the Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys, the increase of misdiagnosis of ADHD in the black community, how to combat the American education system's use of ADHD, and behavior disorders that stigmatize African American youth. ADHD is a diagnosis that came to us in 1980. Then it was called ADD, Attention Deficit Disorder. In 1987, the H for hyperactivity was added to ADHD. When it became ADHD, it opened up a vacuum that allowed for nearly every child to be diagnosed to prescribe prescriptions medication, because previously it was attention deficit disorder. Once they added the word hyper, it opened up the opportunity for medication. Martin highlighted the fact that most children at 7 or 8 years old of age are hyper. He said that's just being a 7 or 8 year old kid. And Dr. Johnson agreed with his assessment, saying this is normal childhood behavior. Dr. Johnson went on to discuss the underlying issues associated with the practice of identifying and diagnosing African American boys with ADHD, saying 97% of public school teachers, charter independent school teachers are female. So you have to look at the female culture of the schoolhouse, and when boys cannot adjust adequately to female expectations, they are marginalized. When you look at the criteria for ADHD, losing things necessarily to get your work done, not being able to pay attention, blurting out answers, having excessive energy, that's a normal male child behavior. But when you come to school, you're kind of expected not to engage in traditional male types of behavior, and if you do, you become stigmatized, and then it becomes the drug companies, manufacturers of all these popular anti-stimulant medications, who pay for a lot of teacher conferences. They're fueling the diagnosis. They also fund significantly the American Sociological and American Psychiatric Associations. So a lot of this is about money. It's not about treatment. Dr. Johnson says the best way to combat misdiagnosis of ADHD is through education. Parents need to know that in school we do not diagnose ADHD. Johnson, a clinical doctor and school psychologist, explained ADHD is not a special education disability. You don't diagnose ADHD in the schools. So when so many boys are being put in special ed for ADHD because of one of the special ed classifications is known as other health impairment, because psychiatry is a branch of medicine. If you diagnose, if you can diagnosis by the doctor with ADHD, if a parent brings the paperwork to school, they can now special educate you. So in other words, it's a huge problem, because the school can't diagnose your kid for anything on that level. But if you as a parent take your kid to a doctor and get your kid diagnosed as by having ADHD, and then you take that paperwork back to the school, that's you convicting your own kid to be separated from the regular classroom and sent to a special education classroom and put on ADHD drugs. So that's you, the parent, that's making a mistake by allowing them to trick you into putting your kids on these ADHD drugs. And your kid will never be the same after that, because those drugs actually destroy the kid's brains. Dr. Johnson proclaimed that he has a big problem with that because he believes that ADHD is not a learning disability. Johnson questioned the second time why black boys are being put in special education environments, saying that 85% of the time, the evaluating psychologist never observes the child in the environment where the complaints are being made. Johnson explained that parents need to remind teachers who are attempting to label a child as suffering with ADHD to their degree certification and expertise in teaching. It is not a mental health diagnosis. So remember that. ADHD and their degree in certification and expertise is in teaching. They don't have a degree in psychology. They don't have a degree in anything on that level. Their degree is in teaching. So it is illegal for teachers to tell parents their children have ADHD. It's not illegal to recommend that the parent look into the problem more. Dr. Johnson, who is also a former school principal, stated, because a lot of our boys grow up without their father at home, the masculine energy, which normally provides the boundary setting, the consequences, is taking out of the household. 85% of the boys diagnosed with ADHD don't have a father in their life. As a result of this, Johnson renamed ADHD. It's not about mental health. It's about the breakdown of the black family that leaves the mother there with the responsibility of turning a boy into a man. So basically, you know, all these things work hand in hand, but you have to understand one thing. When you have a child and you trying to figure it out as a single parent, and it's a woman trying to raise a son, and you don't understand, well, why is my son is acting out and this and that. But at the same time, you got to realize that a kid is just a kid, and it's a boy being what a boy is supposed to do. He's supposed to have energy, and he's supposed to be able to, you know, rough house it. So if you say he got too much energy, get him involved in a sports program. Keep him physically active, involved in something on that level. Then you don't have to worry about him having all that excess energy. And then having the school try to say that your kid has ADHD, when in fact all it is just a kid being a kid. So when you listen to what they say, and they have you take your kid to get diagnosed, that's you getting the diagnosis, not the school. The school is giving you a false recommendation. Now your kid is on drugs. They take your kids out of the regular classroom, put them into a special education class, and that's going to follow them from the time they started all the way to the time they finish school. Even if they transfer to another school, it's going to be written in their record that kid has some kind of deficiency. So don't label your kids like that, and don't allow them to label your kids like that. If the school, they can't force you, and they can't force you to put your kid in those special education classes. They can't do it. It's illegal. So wake up and stop sentencing your kids to a lifetime of misery by listening to these lazy, worthless, good-for-nothing teachers that are not doing their job. They're not doing their job. So they don't want to teach your kids anyway, because think about this. If you got a teacher that's coming from the other side of town, and that teacher has to come into your neighborhood to teach, first of all, they don't want to be there in the first place. Second of all, if they have kids, that means your kids will be competing against their kids. So no, they don't want your kids to learn. So you need to wake up and if you can afford it, put your kids in private school or homeschool them, or get some kind of positive school that's doing some good things with kids that have a high successful graduation rate, and get them out of public school. Because public school is a joke. It's a total joke. And here we go with a positive story here. On the flip side, here's an Ohio teen makes history graduates college before finishing high school. And his picture is up at the top. That was his picture at the top of the broadcast. Cameron Ray, 17-year-old high school student from Ohio, has recently earned his associate's degree at Cuyahoga Community College. He is the youngest student from the city of Warrensville to ever accomplish this before finishing high school. Everyone is usually pretty surprised when I tell them I'm the only junior in high school, Cameron told the news media. Cameron was able to enter college early through the Ohio College Credit Plus, a program that started in 2015 and allows grades 7 through 12 students from the state to earn college credits. He won't be graduating high school until 2021, but he is now set to attend Cleveland State University next semester to pursue his dream of becoming a film director. Congratulations, young brother. Congratulations. Wow, 17 years old and still in high school, and he already graduated from college. Wow. Yeah, earned his associate's degree in college at 17 years old. So you can't say, oh, well, newsflash. Here's a Minnesota TSA agent who disrespected a Native American woman, and this, so you have a TSA agent whipped the braids of a Native American woman and yelled, "Giddy up," during a security check at a Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport, according to the woman and the Federal Transportation TSA administration. Going through TSA at Minnesota Airport, the agent said she needed to pat down my braids. She then pulled them behind my shoulders, laughed, and said, "Giddy up," as she snapped my braids like horse reins. Tara Huska wrote on Twitter, "When I informed the middle-aged blonde woman who had casually used her authority to dehumanize and disrespect me, she said, 'Well, it was just in fun. I'm sorry. Your hair is lovely. This is not an apology, and it's not okay,' Huska added. 'My hair is part of my spirit, and I'm a native woman. I'm angry, humiliated, and your fun hurt.' Cliff Van Laven, the TSA's federal security director at Minnesota, confirmed in an email sent to TSA employees at the airport that the incident happened on Monday. In the news last night and today, you likely seen or heard of a TSA officer at MSP who was insensitive in screening the long braided hair of Native American passenger Monday morning. Did it happen? Yes, exactly as described. Yes, said the email, which was shared by NBC News. Van Leeuwen says he reached out to Huska and apologized. He said their conversation was pleasant, and Huska said she didn't want the employee to be disciplined, but that she is hoping we'll take the chance to continue to educate our staff about the many Native American tribe bands in our state region and better understand their culture. I'm going to stop right there, because if you, at some point, people going to have to start waking up and realizing when people disrespect you on that level, apologizing and being an idiot, apologizing to these ungrateful, ruthless bastards that sit here and disrespect you is the last thing on the planet that you need to be doing. It's like that's just giving them free reign to just continue to disrespect you. Why should you bow down to these hypocrites and these worthless pieces of crap that disrespect you every time they feel like they want to disrespect you? And a false garbage apology is not a remedy for that. It's not a remedy. It's not a remedy at all. If anything, she should sue the heck out of TSA, that person that did it, and the airline too, for even having that person around. That person needs to be fired. They need to be fired. I'm sorry, I can't go along with that. Now talking about some apology. He said Huska told him she was surprised by the situation, but she often travels for speaking engagements. The TSA agents have always been good and respectful in recognizing sacred items. And so we go right back to where we were. And it's like, My braids are not reins. I should be treated with dignity, as should everyone else who scroll on Twitter. A good resolution from a bad situation. We need more education and empathy for one another. And I was watching this video on I think it may have been on YouTube, or it might have been on a news broadcast. And it was this guy. There was two guys standing there, and it was a black guy and a white guy. And the black guy was just standing there. He wasn't saying a word. And this white guy was just rambling on, man. I mean, he was talking a bunch of crap, and the brother didn't say nothing back to him. And so this went on and on and on. The guy's talking about the white guys yelling, and I'm a veteran, this, that. And so he got to the point where he called the black guy a nigger, and with one punch, the black dude knocked him out, knocked him straight out. Boom! So the white guy's on the ground with his ass in the air, completely knocked out cold. And so my response to that was, hey, he asked for it. The brother didn't say a word back to him. All the time this guy was like, yap. And so he got his ass whooped. He got knocked the fuck out. So, hey, he asked for it. You kept running your mouth, and you got just what you deserve. So when it comes down to that, that's the response that they respect. They don't respect any other response than getting knocked the fuck out when they disrespect you. So wake up and stop being chumps out there. KP's Video News, y'all. Peace.